Previously on Bollockz.
Clint, but let's get on to something much more important for South African football fans. What's your feeling today about Gordon Ingerson going into this meeting with SAFA? How do you think it'll turn out?
Yeah, Cole, look, I think a lot of people are seeing this as a job interview. The fact of the matter is, Gordon Ingerson still has a contract with SAFA, so it's not like he's walking out of this meeting fired or without a job. I think whatever happens, you'll probably see him see out his contract, which would probably mean we'll see him take in Brazil, the Bafana side against Brazil. I think what is going to happen is he's obviously got a report, a Chan report, that he'll present to them. They'll have a look at the facts and the figures. They will decide whether what he has presented is in line with their vision, what they were expecting, etc. And then there will be, I'm not sure there'll be an announcement, to be quite honest. I'm not sure they'll come up and say Gordon Ingerson's fired or Gordon Ingerson is safe. I think it'll be taken indoors and deliberated for a while. And slowly but surely we'll get to some kind of a conclusion. You and I have discussed this on Twitter as to, is Gordon good for South African soccer? And from what I pick up from your tweets, you seem to think that it's time for him to go and for someone new to come in. From my side, I don't see anybody else currently in South Africa that will do anything much different. And what I hate about change is that whoever comes in, if it's a foreign coach, is going to be saying, well, give me a year or two to learn South African soccer. Give me a year or two to make this team my own, to get my philosophy in. And for me, that takes us backwards. I do think under Gordon we have got a style per se. I think as much as this Chan tournament was a disaster, I'm not sure it was a Gordon Ingerson fault disaster. I think there were other that a team like Libya, who don't actually have a league running right now, speaks volumes of the magnitude of this tournament and how important it actually was. I believe that the team that beat Spain, the players that performed so well against Brazil and that won in Brazil,
I remember that,
formed quite a positive outlook for South African football with a couple of extras added to that. And I honestly don't see how changing the coach changes the fortune of South Africa. Danny Jordan came and said we need to change our name, we need to change our colours, we need all of that. It's a new coat of paint. At the end of the day, it's the same. It's what you're doing inside that team that needs to change. I think under Gordon, there's a vision. I think what Danny needs to do is look backwards from the senior team. What's happening in your under-20s, your under-17s? What's happening in South African school soccer? And that's where you fix South African soccer. I don't think it's changed the coach all the time. If that were the case, we would be the best team in the world because I think we've changed our coach the most times.
Yes, we're top of the FIFA rankings for coach shuffling. I think,
without a doubt.
In the 20 years since South Africa were allowed back into FIFA, and you and I can remember. You maybe not as well as I, the dim dark days of not being allowed to play international football. It's such a privilege and a pleasure to see Bafana out there. And we all just want to be a little bit more proud of them, a little bit more celebratory. It looked in '96, right way back then, like it was going to be a great return to international football. We've really just shuffled coaches in and out. And normally, I'd say you're absolutely right. Why change it? Why? But when Gordon first got the job, he went on and on at me about how he's going to create this style of play for Bafana, how he's going to reintroduce the under-23s. We've seen nothing of that, Clint. And when I listen to you, mate, you make every bit of sense, and then that's how I felt. But now I look at the way we chopped and changed in Chan. We played players that make no sense at all in certain positions. I know he didn't have the Pirates players. I know
they do make no sense at all because they shouldn't have been in a Bafana jersey. Some of those players, if we're quite honest. Yeah. So I agree with you in terms of the under-23 situation. The average age of the team that beat Spain was 24. Yeah. Take out a couple of the 28 and 29-year-olds, and you get to your under-23. In fact, you then get to a squad age of 22. So I'm not too convinced about he has introduced youth. He has sort of brought the Batosis and the Serreros, and those kind of players in, the name Khlangus, etc. So the youth is coming in there, and I have no doubt that the older, the 28 to 29, I have no doubt that the KGs and the Shabbas will slowly be phased out now, and younger talent be brought in. I think Parker still has a role to play, obviously. He's the kind of player that probably sort of as he matures, you're still going to get goals from him, like an Eto'o or an Henry. But yeah, I think it's a bit harsh to go right. The Chan was a complete screw up. Let's get rid of Gordon.
Yeah, no, I take your point. I mean, I would agree with you. The Spain side was young. We've got these. I think we've got a side. I'd love to see Gordon put together the team of overseas players that are accumulating in Europe now that Andila Jali's joined them. We've got the young Kagiso and Claire at Peterborough kind of coming on. We could put together quite a good overseas side from Keat in goal right up to, I don't know, who would we play up front? But anyway, we could play a foreign side against a local side, have a look at how that works out. But then when I see during Chan, Gordon dropping players like Butlem Makwanazi, who's 23, for a 30-year-old centre-back and fiddling around and keeping 29, 30-year-olds in the side and not bringing the youngsters in. And then before that, against Spain, exactly the same thing where you had Sianda Kulu mysteriously dropped before the Spain game, did come on at half-time through injury. I don't understand why we've got these old guys playing ahead of the young guys, because that doesn't fit our development programme. I don't get that. I'm searching for a reason why we would do that, why we wouldn't get the younger versions in if there's some debate, why we wouldn't consistently go for those that are under 25 instead of in the last game against Nigeria in Chan, our youngest player was 27. How's that possible?
Well, look, I can answer for Gordon. I think the Spain, the selection was obviously spot on because we beat them, so you can't question that.
Yep.
With the Chan, I think, with Gordon, the thinking there probably was, I'm going to get roasted here, regardless of what happens, because I could say, well, I threw in all the youngsters and lose and say it was a development exercise and get roasted. Or I could try to do our very best at this particular tournament. And with that in mind, I'll go for experience, because the combinations, I don't really know the combinations. I mean, was it 4 days before the tournament that they had the whole team there? I'm not sure. I believe in this Chan tournament, he was actually experimenting with combinations, and experimenting with combinations that we're never ever going to use, really, because once you get the full complement of players back, a lot of those combinations don't really mean anything. So, in terms of player selection, no, it's an interesting one. I think the two players that you mentioned are represented by the same agent, and possibly that agent may have felt hard done by. And you've spoken about agents, and I think there are a couple of agents out there who possibly would hope for a coaching change, because like in a club, when a new coach comes in, players get another chance. When a new national coach comes in, agents get another chance to get their players in.
Yeah.
I personally don't think Gordon is showing preferential treatment. His job's on the line. He's going to try and win every game, so he's not going to put in weaker players for the sake of favouring agents. I do think that's a shot in the dark, really, Cole, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know, sure. I just desperately searching sometimes for an explanation for some of the more bizarre selections that I've seen. But like you say, I mean, you do what you can when you're Gordon, don't you? But I did have a conversation with Danny O'Donnell where he said, well, look, Gordon asked for those 23 players for Chan. He never raised the Orlando Pirates thing. He never said, oh, we must have the Orlando Pirates player. He just went with the 23 that he named. Danny said, I then got him those 23. There were a couple of changes for injury, and then he got someone like Matthew Patterson, who came out of the blue, having not played for Bafana for ages. He gave Gordon the 23 men that he wanted. Gordon then chopped and changed that side unmercifully throughout the tournament, where in the last game against Nigeria, he changed his centre-backs, he changed his full-backs, he changed everything. Told us he was going to go out to win, and promptly went out with one striker and nothing much getting up wide. No kind of ravaging down the wing from the fullbacks that you would expect in a five-man midfield. And I was surprised that, having told us, and you said, Gordon went in on a hiding to nothing. Gordon, before the tournament, said, we're going to go all the way. And we didn't just not go all the way. We knocked out at the first hurdle. It was unbelievable.
If you're the national coach and you know you've got an undercooked squad, are you going to go out in the media and say publicly, these aren't the players I wanted. These are B and C team players, knowing that will be the headlines the next day, and then walking into the change room before a game and asking them to wear the jersey and fight for the country. Could we say those things in the media?
Well, which B and C team players are you talking about? I didn't... Clint...
Well, you call Matthew Patterson.
Yeah.
Is he... how far down the pecking order is he when it comes to the central midfield position?
Well, I know for a fact that he would be in the Bafana squad every week if he didn't have to go back and see his wife and kid in Britain whenever there's an international break, because they're currently living separately and he wants to get back there and see him.
So you think he's a starter for Bafana if you've got your full complement of midfielders?
I know there's been calls.
Who would you drop? Who does he start ahead of?
We'd be in the squad. I'm saying to you, where are these B and C team players that Gordon picked in Chan?
Well,
I didn't really see them.
I don't. Matty's a fantastic player, but I don't think he's in the Bafana plans.
No, sure. No, I take your point. Okay, listen, it's going to go on and on, isn't it? You don't think there'll be an official? I spoke to Danny earlier, and I was hoping that he'd come back to me and say, will there be an announcement today? You don't think there's actually going to be any announcement of any kind after the meeting today?
No, look, nobody knows what SAF is going to do ever. So to say there will or there won't would be pure speculation. Who knows? Maybe it goes horribly wrong, and it adjourns, and there's an announcement Gordon's out, and possibly there's a payout, and he leaves early, or there's an announcement that Gordon will set his contract, and at the end of it, he hasn't reached his mandates, and he will go. So who knows what SAF is going to do?
Yeah, no, who does know? All right, Clint, listen, it's always good to talk to you, mate. Always good to tweet with you, as long as we don't take it too seriously. And, mate, keep reading Soccer Laduma, I guess, because it does keep us up to date. It's a great site. I know you've just changed it all, which is quite interesting, and it works quite well. Give us a shout, mate. Anything happens, anything you hear, and I'll give you a shout if I hear anything.
Fantastic. Thanks for the call, Cole.
All right,
cheers.
Cheers, Clint. So, Clint Roper. A very strong advocate of Gordon Iggison, and understandably so. The other arguments, both sides, aren't there? It all rests today on SAFA, the technical committee, when Gordon gives his report on Chan, which is, don't forget, what this is all about today. If he can justify what happened at Chan, if he can say that he only had the players for 2 or 3 days, it wasn't a great team, he couldn't pick Orlando Pirates players, he had a dispute with Chiefs and Vits over whether he could use their players until the very last minute. He brought in people like Matthew Patterson who aren't available for Bafana, in their ordinary games. But Clint, they're saying that he couldn't come out and say these are B and C team Bafana players. But we did that at Kasafa, and everyone understood that. I didn't see many B and C team players. We had Kune, we had Shaba, we had pretty much the pick of who we needed. Bernard Parker, who played every game. Interesting. I mean, the debate, that's the point, isn't it? It's all about opinions. It's one bloke will come out and say, it's disgraceful, Gordon Iggison should go. Actually, that was me.
Look, I quite like Gordon Iggison, and I think he should stay. But I remember when he first came into the Bafana coach, he met with every coach, with the PSL coaches.
He did, yeah.
He met with the under-23 and Majita as well. Coaches, and he said his plan was to introduce or to bring in a whole lot of young players into the Bafana squad, and how he was going to do that was to work closely with the under-17s, under-19s, and the under-23s. But ever since he came in, I must say I haven't seen. Yes, we have seen the likes of Potosi, of Serrero, but those are the players that are making it big out there. They're not players that have started in art development under SAFA. It's just players that he picked from Belgium and Ajax and stuff. What happened to the players that he promised that he was going to pick from the under-19s, the SAFA, Bafana under-19s, under-23s, and under-17s?
That's exactly the problem. At Kasafa, in Zambia, we did have all those young players up, and then Amajita won the Kasafa under-20, and we kind of expected that he wouldn't have to go to the 88 cap players and the 30-year-olds and the 29-year-olds. But he did, and I suppose, remember this, guys. When you're a football journalist, or when you're like Comfort and I kind of putting out a show, there's no hard and fast answers to should Gordon Iggison stay or should he go. It's all about opinions, and it's all about wondering why certain things happened. And when they go well, like against Spain, how did we manage to beat Spain 1-0? And yet we lost to Nigeria, definitely Nigeria's C team. 3-1 in the game we just had to draw. These are the questions that we have to ask. If we think that we understand and we've got a reason for it, we have to come up with that. No matter whether lawyers' letters are thrown at you or not, you have to come out with what you feel is the truth. And here on Bulls Radio, we are free to say what we want. And no one in any way encourages us to say anything for or against any of these people. You need to understand that.
Visual radio. Radio like you've never seen it before. Bulls.co.za